Hello, everyone. Welcome back to End Zone Scoop. I'm Liz. Joining me are my co-host Dana and Shona. Today, we're going to be talking about a number of things from the chaos that has been Week 7, Bill Belichick, Deshaun Watson, the Bills, and more. But this is the first time we've all got together since Shona's Italian honeymoon. So, how was it? Tell us everything.
Oh, it was so good. I absolutely loved it. Basically, it was 75% Aperol Spritz, 25% limoncello by the time I came home. But great food, great pasta, great culture, great history. Cannot recommend Italy enough. I literally fell in love.
And Dana, you were in Joshua Tree. Tell me all about that.
Yeah. So Joshua Tree was kind of, it's a national park here. It's in California, and it was made famous, obviously, by the U2 album Joshua Tree back in the 80s. And we had not been out there before, and we were there to celebrate my brother, his birthday, who is in California. But we took a little detour to Joshua Tree from Palm Springs, and let me tell you that is one thing that the United States does very well is their national parks. But Joshua Tree, it looks like a different planet. It is the weirdest thing. I read a description that said it has trees that looks like it's from Dr. Seuss and rocks that look like they're from the moon. And it's true. It's very cool and funky. So any of you guys ever visit California, Southern California, if you can take a minute and go to Joshua Tree, it's outside of Palm Springs. It was very cool.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list of ones to go see, just because this whole episode of Entourage, I don't know if you ever watched that, where they go there and they do mushrooms and they just keep getting lost and having an amazing time. So, yeah. I'm not saying I want to go do mushrooms, but I do.
No, but it is very easy to get lost. It happens all the time. So, yes, I get that.
Well, for me, for the past 3 weeks, I've been in London. Obviously not this weekend just gone, but the 3 before that, seeing the games as press rather than fans. So that's been definitely an adjustment. It's very quiet. It's very professional. And I can be professional, but I'm not very good at the quiet part.
It is very different than being a fan. That is
very.
I remember coming an Aberdeen game years ago, and I am a big Aberdeen fan. And Aberdeen were close to scoring, and I kept having to go.
Oh, honestly, yeah. You can make noises because the fans are around you and they're making enough noise anyway. Because where press is, especially in Tottenham, is right in the middle of the fans, kind of the corner opposite the main entrance that the players come out of. So it's definitely an interesting kind of area for sure. But no, it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It was good to go to the post-game presser. Obviously, I'd never done that before, so that was a different experience. Got to ask Doug Peterson a question and kind of having that 2 weeks of consistency of seeing their press conference, seeing how they'd answered the questions was actually really, really interesting. So I'm really glad I've done it. I'm excited to do it again, hopefully. So yeah, we'll see. But awesome. It's been really good. And I think the part that was the hardest was the 4-hour drive afterwards. So driving straight from the game after being there all day, 4 hours back home. But hey, the things we do for the love of sport.
The interesting thing, and what I wanted to ask you about the London games is, so there were, what was there 3 of them this year?
3 in a row, yeah.
And so I'm wondering if the novelty is wearing off to the English fan. It seemed to me that there doesn't seem to be, at least from what they're showing us on television, obviously, I wasn't there, but it seems that the novelty of it is wearing off, and that maybe that the hype surrounding it isn't quite as big as it used to be. The Germany games, those are still chaos, obviously. And now they're discussing, they're thinking about putting a game in Spain. Are you kidding me? And so I was just curious what you felt kind of the tenor of the fans were there, if they were kind of over it.
I don't know. I don't feel like they're over it just because it seems to sell out-ish every single time, or tickets come available last minute. So I don't feel like it is in that sense. But what I do find quite interesting is this possibility of a franchise more likely now? If you'd have asked me a year ago, I would have said no chance. Now with Jacksonville looking for a new stadium, part of me is a little bit like, it's possible. It's more possible now than it ever has been. If they get their stadium in Jacksonville, it's done. It's over.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that this has been a bit of a trial. So they've got 3 games in London that have just done back-to-back. We've got 2 in Germany that they're going to go do back to back. 1 more in Spain that I suspect will be announced for next year because the stadium's pretty much ready by the sounds of it, or the plans are ready. I'm not quite sure which, but just kind of makes me feel there's more of a possibility for Europe to take over someone. I don't see it being a European team. It would be the London Jaguars or whatever. I don't know what the long-term plan is, but just makes it kind of interesting and more possible than I think it ever has been. Doesn't mean it might happen, but I don't know. It's been more of a possibility this time than, say, how I felt about it last year.
Yeah. I still don't know the logistics of the teams going there, coming back by week, not by week. And I think they're testing that. I think they're testing that by giving some of these teams, they now have the option of not taking a bye week after their London game. And they had a couple of teams opt for that. So maybe they're trying to see how that turnaround is for them. And if that's going to be a requirement, also then you have to look at stands. So it's like, so then the London teams will be, would be there for, let's say, 4 weeks in a row. Then they'd have to come to the States for 4 or 5 weeks in a row just to make that, back and forth shifting. So I still think there's a lot to work out.
Definitely.
To be honest with you, I think Jacksonville's probably going to pay for a stadium. I'm just saying that out but at the same time, that is 3 teams in one state, and that's a lot. California is and New York are really the only ones that have pulled that off so far. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes, and they do fine there. But yeah, it just didn't seem to quite have that it had before. So I was wondering if they were just starting to get used to it, where the Germany games, and that could be the difference, is that they put them in Germany and those fans went insane. And so maybe we're like, wait, what happened to, you know what I mean? So
you never know. It'll be interesting to see how this goes, because I didn't see a Spanish stadium being an option. Obviously now it is going to be, because it's a retractable pitch. It's happening. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen. But I don't know. I mean, how far are they going to take the European expansion, or like further? Like, I don't see China or Australia working just because of the time difference being way too off. But I don't know. You never know.
Have to have your audience
fan bases out there. So
yeah.
I've not actually been to a London game since 2017, 2018. I just haven't. It's too expensive. I could fully fly to this. Like I say this every time. I could literally fly to New York cheaper. Go see a New York Jets game, and then fly home, and it would still be cheaper than me going to London, which is crazy. Okay, maybe not cheaper, but it'd be.
You're right though. It is. Like this was the first year, so we'd cancelled our season tickets this year because we were like, it's too expensive for exactly those reasons. Like, I would rather fly to America for the ticket cost. Like, it was going to cost us £600 for 2 tickets at 3 games, so that's a lot of money. Obviously then it worked out the press, so that's great for me, but obviously Barrett now doesn't go. And hotels then is another expense. Like, I was paying pretty much £200 per weekend to be there Friday to Sunday. It adds up. And then my petrol, at least my petrol was cheaper than my train fare, so that's one plus point, but still that's like £50-60 per weekend for petrol, and then food and drink and things like that. So it does all add up. And I think at one point, if you think about the way that the NFL's evolved here, is that it is, I feel, slowly going to start to become people only going to watch if it's their team. You've got the group of fans that will go regardless of any game. But like Packers last year was a prime example. Like, that was interesting. This year, though, for me, that certainly felt like it's the first time it felt like a home game, certainly for the Bills. I think pretty much for the Ravens too. So I don't know. It's been an interesting one for sure. I feel like there is some form of change. I'm just not necessarily sure what the change was.
Right. I think Peter brings up a good comment, a good point in the chat. The interesting thing is the time issue, and that's the bigger problem even in Germany, because Germany's another time zone away. Is that if you put a West Coast team out there, so we have to remember that specific time, that even the London games start at 6:30 in the morning for them. And if it's the Seahawks or the Niners or whoever it may be, you're alienating that entire fan base. And so they're going to have to figure out the time thing also, because those London games aren't getting a ton of viewers in the States because they're so early, unless they're on the East Coast, and then they love it because they're like 9:30, you know, it's like we get football starting at 9:30 in the morning. So I think that that's really interesting. I think that that's something that they're going to have to work out logistically and maybe make it a night game, I think, which would make a little bit more sense if you want the American audience looped in. So there's a lot to bring in there. And I think that they have to really look at all the different scenarios and possibilities and where your viewership is coming from, for sure.
Yeah. There's so many things that people are saying, like Will here, for example, is thinking more about an expansion would be possible. I don't know. It's tough when I've thought about whether an expansion would work, and I'm just, I don't feel like that's sustainable. But I don't know. It's been a long time since they've done NFL Europe, so could certainly be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Right. So we definitely got distracted on that one.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's an interesting topic. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, it's fascinating. And it's something I've been thinking a lot about, kind of, you know, since the London game. So could be interesting for sure. So yeah, let's get into week 7, like chaos. So I read there were, I think, was it 9 games of 11 from like the first of the 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. slot that were decided by like just one score. And I think that's pretty crazy. Like, it's been an interesting one. There are certainly some teams for me where I felt your lack of score is not what I would have expected going into that game. So what do you guys think? What was the biggest shockers for you? Like, what surprised you guys the most?
I think the Bills losing was a bad loss. Considering that I think it was three games in like a row that the Bills had won, or even 4 or something. I just don't really know what is going wrong at the Bills at the minute. They're losing to teams like the Jaguars, who have improved, of course, and then they're losing to teams like Bill Belichick's Patriots. Basically, I think personally, Bill saw that people were like, this game is going to be a washout. Bills are coming into town and going to completely destroy the Patriots. And Bill was like, ha, hold my beer. I'm going to get a good win. Like, I feel like that is something that the Bills need to obviously address, because I feel like they are struggling majorly in the first quarter right now. And I feel like that is hindering them and when they're moving forward. Another game that I was quite surprised at was when the Browns beat the Colts. It was by a score of 1. I'll tell you why. The Browns are a great team now. That's very bare in my mouth. But they are doing a lot better. And the Colts have improved as well. My issue was that really, really horrible referee call at the end. There was a couple in quick succession. So PJ Walker was obviously in at quarterback. He then fumbled the ball after a sack, and it was recovered by DeForest Buckner. However, the cornerback Baker Jr. was called for illegal contact, giving Cleveland the fresh set of downs. And then this is what referees, I feel like, are just avoiding the subject this season, that when a quarterback is throwing the ball and it is literally an uncatchable throw.
It's uncatchable.
Literally uncatchable. They're still giving defense interference. And I'm like, you can't give defense interference if the ball was way over his head.
Right.
Like, I feel like it's just getting a bit too silly. And they're calling these really weird calls, in my opinion, that is hurting the other team. And there was loads against the Browns as well. It was just an odd game. And there's been loads of referee decisions like this throughout the season that people are going to keep talking about the refs getting things wrong again, because it's like they're scared to use the word uncatchable.
Right. It's the games yesterday were really interesting, and the reffing was a huge point of emphasis on Twitter and a lot of other places that we saw. There's a lot of people. I mean, there was one tweet that I resent out that was, this is as bad as the replacements. And what has happened, I think, and this point was made, this was not my point, it was made in the comments of that, was that it's gotten so complicated, even the refs don't know what the rules are anymore. And we've said that jokingly in the past, but it's starting to be true, because they're not adjusting to the speed and the quickness and, of the game. This is not your 1980s, NFL football anymore. So I really believe that is, a huge part of it. And so I think that they need to revamp, get that competition committee all back together again. We're going to make the tush push illegal, and then let's fix some of these other things, which I don't think they should, but that's a whole nother conversation. But the interesting thing for me about yesterday's games was that some of the games were very close. The Bills, over on our turf, we just did a whole thing about a couple roller coaster teams, and it was the Cowboys and the Bills. You don't know what to expect to them. And it was a divisional game. That always changes everything, right? We understand that. But at the same time, you're like, really? You know who their quarterback is, right? Like it's just kind of confusing.
They were making him look like he was like Tom Brady, the coming of the third. Like I was like, what are the Bills doing?
Yeah, it was very confusing. Makes me wonder about injuries. Makes me wonder about. And then one comment was, "Oh, we see the old Josh Allen is back." It's like, yeah, that did look like first season Josh Allen sometimes. I haven't written them off though. I do think that they're going to struggle more than we thought they would, but I haven't written them quite off yet. One that surprised me was the Ravens and the Lions. What the hell happened to the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, that surprised me.
They have been playing. I'm sorry, what?
They were like asleep.
Yes, it's like they didn't show up. I had just been praising Jared Goff, which was real hard for me to do. But it's like what is going on with that team? And the Ravens, God love Lamar Jackson. He shut everybody up in that game.
Yeah.
It was so interesting. It was so surprising for the Lions it was 38-6, you guys. That's an insane number. It was just insane. I think too, the Giants winning, the Commanders are another one of those teams that are real roller coastery. You don't really know what to expect. And then you saw in the interviews of the players, some of them afterwards were really upset and they're like, we're sick of this crap. As are the Raiders fans. Let me just tell you. I hate their head coach, and now so do their fans. So that makes me real happy. That's all right with me. But so yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Some of these games, I thought that yesterday kind of proved a lot of preconceived notions wrong. That the NFL really is a super competitive league, and you can't really just write everybody off. I think that that's really interesting. But let's talk about for just a minute. Let's talk about the Browns game. Obviously, they started out with Deshaun Watson was their starting quarterback. He got pulled out to be checked for concussion, was cleared from concussion, and never put back in the game. Now, great news for PJ Walker. He ended up, winning that game and actually looking pretty good in it. But because let's not write off, Gardner Minshew quite so yet, but the interesting thing about this here to me is that this is becoming a pattern with Deshaun Watson. So when he first hurt his shoulder, and they held him out, and then they held him out, and then they held him out. Come to find out, he had been cleared 2 weeks prior for play, and he was not playing. He finally decides he's going to come back in. He's going to play this game. He gets checked for concussion, cleared. They don't put him back in the game. And Stefanski said flat out, he's like, well, I just wanted to hold out my starter. I wanted to protect my starter. Protect him from what? And I'm not quite understanding. It's like, is he not there to play the game of football? You paid too much money for this guy, for him to sit on the sidelines. And so there's just kind of some question marks that are sitting around Deshaun Watson right now. He did say he's going to be the starter in Seattle, and I don't know that I believe it. We'll see what happens. There's something amiss in Brownsville for sure.
Like you said before we started, Dina, good luck who starts against that defense. Just
right.
Good luck.
It's just weird, is they obviously paid a lot of money, 250 million, I think it was, and he obviously missed the first 11 games, and we know exactly why that was, and he came back and he underperformed, and he's continuing to have a rough start, but I just don't know. He's not helping himself, I don't think.
It's just bizarre. It's like, what is going on that he all of a sudden, and then he said, I wanted to play. If you wanted to play, then why the hell weren't you out there? I don't know what's going on.
I feel like they've got themselves into a massive hole because they've paid so much money for him. And there's still lawsuits coming out behind the scenes. And I don't know if that's maybe a factor in it as well, but it's just totally bizarre. Bizarre. In my opinion, the guy shouldn't be playing in the NFL, but that's just a personal opinion.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good old Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. So Peter has a good question in chat. He says, question regarding Watson. Do you think the trade could be worse than the Russell Wilson trade? Yes. 1,000 times yes. Because when they traded Russell Wilson, when Seattle traded Russell Wilson to the Broncos, his contract wasn't set yet. They gave him a contract, but at least he's been on the damn field, right?
Yeah.
At least they're not, they won yesterday, but they're not winning and they're not being consistent, but at least he's available. Yeah. Watson is, and all of his talents aren't even available. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, I think you're right. It's a hard one. Yeah, I don't feel like you can compare Watson and Wilson. It just just can't compare them. But like exactly like you say, at least he's playing like he still wants to play. Watson right now is clearly he can't want to play. There's absolutely no way he wants to play. So many players lie about their injuries and carry on playing. Like I just don't believe it.
Yeah, right. There's just something weird going on for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not trying to talk about a different podcast, but on the Our Tour podcast, I've already told Kate, who is our Browns reporter, I'm like, I need you to dig into this because it's driving me crazy. Like, I mean, I would
we need to know.
I know. I know.
Bring the goss.
Right. We need the gossip.
Peter also had another interesting question. He was asking which team do we think has the best throwback jersey. So I saw on Twitter right before it came on, I saw the Houston Oilers one. I was like, that looks like as in for Titans. I like that one.
I would like it too if it didn't have the connotation of the Houston Oilers on it because they don't deserve to wear that jersey.
Exactly.
But it looks really good. Yeah. I'm going to say, of course, Seattle. I've been dying and waiting for that Seattle throwback for years now. So, but that green on the Eagles last night.
That's nice.
Yeah, that is nice too. That is nice too.
What about the creamsicle Buccaneers one though? I kind of liked that. It was different. I don't feel like I've seen many kits like bright orange.
Yeah. No, that's just traditional for my old lady brain. So I loved it too. I thought it was great.
Definitely. And I think we definitely need to be talking about Bill Belichick then. So he just after that win, became the third head coach in NFL history to reach 300 career regular season wins. I mean, what an amazing feat that even is.
Well, the Dark Lord's returned, hasn't he? Just don't write him off.
Going up and let us down.
I know. What's going on?
I know. Oh, Shona's laptop is acting up just a little bit. There she is.
I'm back. I might have to join on my phone. But he I feel like everyone wrote him off yesterday, like I said earlier, and he was just like, absolutely not. Like, I'm proving what I'm worth and I'm gonna get my 300 wins. And I think you said it before we started, Dana, he's wanting to obviously beat Don Shula or at least match him. But with this team at the minute, can't see it, Bill. I'm sorry.
That's 28 more wins to catch Don Shula. That there's 17 games. So even if he went, 17-0, which is never going to happen, it's going to take him years to get to that. But apparently that is his goal. He wants to be the winningest coach in NFL history. And what a great feat that would be. You might be 80 before you do it, but
maybe like in a walker.
I love it.
The other thing that came out about Bill Belichick is supposedly, and I say supposedly because there seems to be some question mark, that he had a contract extension in the offseason.
Interesting.
There's no record of it. No one talked about it. There's no details about it, but supposedly it is out there. And people were really excited at first because there had been conversation about whether or not Kraft might even, tell him to step down. It's like, oh no, he has this extension. Okay, well, great. But that was before how bad this team has been. So does it still stick? There's no money information. They just keep saying we have him locked down for the long term. What the hell does that mean? And I want some details. Now, am I surprised that they kept it quiet? No, because that's Bill Belichick, right? But at the same time, I think we need a little more information on this, maybe. It seems a little shady to me.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just weird. It's not being spoken about. Normally these things, there's massive press releases, there's huge news about it. But I literally heard about it for the first time on Sunday Night Football. So yeah,
Right.
it's very interesting. Very interesting.
And here's the thing. I have, obviously, being a Seahawks fan, I have no age discrimination when it comes to coaches. But if you think that he's just holding on to beat Shula, which seems to be kind of the consensus with everything, he's got a ways to go. And that's a little hard, especially when during the Arizona game, the Seahawks Arizona game yesterday, they put up the Arizona head coach. He's 40 and he's the 7th youngest quarterback. So Belichick's in his 70s.
Yeah.
40 is the 7th youngest. We have all these head coaches in their 30s. So I love the longevity of him. But at the same time, if you have to constantly be rebuilding a team and you're only winning 5 to 7 games a season, that takes you 4 or 5 years to get to where you want to be. So I don't know. I hope that maybe they go on a hot streak and he'll get there a little faster, or he kind of gives over on that, because what you said is absolutely correct. Getting to 300 wins is an insane number. And that is fantastic for him to have done that.
Yeah, definitely. Well done, Bill.
Well done, Billy B.
Well, we covered a lot there. Is anything else we want to be chatting about?
I'm good.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting week. I think that we always say you don't know a team until you hit, weeks 4 to 6. I'm thinking we're going to have to go to week 10 before we have any idea who these teams are this year.
Yeah, really interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would hate to be a betting person right now. My fantasy football team has destroyed both of them anyway because of injury.
I'm doing great in fantasy. I'm top of my league. This never happens. Like, I hate fantasy football. I refuse to play it, but I was getting FOMO and I had to do it this time. So I was like, right, I'll do one. And I know what I'm like. If I'm losing, I don't invest in it. I don't want to play. But no, I'm top of the league right now, and it's looking good.
Good for you.
Well done.
I've lost 3/4 of my team to injury.
It could all go wrong tonight, so let's see.
Oh, fair. So yeah, it's been interesting. I hope everyone is enjoying the season, because this is where we don't know what's going to happen. That's for sure.
Definitely. I think we've lost Shona.
I think we have. So on that note,
fine. Yeah, we were going to wrap up anyway. So yeah, that is all for this week's End Zone Scoop. Hope you've enjoyed the show. We are back every other Monday at 6:30 UK time, 1:30 Eastern time. So yeah, come along and join us next time, and come subscribe to us as well. So that would be awesome.
Hi,
She's making an appearance. She's back.
We were just wrapping up, Shona.
I was like, no, I knew this was going to happen.
You did so well, guys. Awesome. Well, guys, until next time, thanks for joining us.